Vilasini Mataji, we are reading Sri Caitanya Caritamra, Antya Lila, Chapter 6, 301. Anurag Mataji, we are so happy to have your association in Chaitanya Caritamrita class, Mataji. Thank you so much. Please take over, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, thank you all so much. Is my voice audible?
Yes,
Yes, Mataji, your voice is audible.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks to all the devotees for this very wonderful opportunity. We are reading from Sri Chaitanya Caritamrita. This is Antya Lila and chapter 6, the meeting of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ranganath Das Goswami, and we will be covering from verse 301 onwards. जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंदा जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंदा जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंदा ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणम् नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते राधानाथस्वामिनिति नामिने नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So, as mentioned, we are continuing to read from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is Antya Lila, chapter 6. The meeting of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ranganath Das Goswami, and this is verse 301 onwards. I pray unto the lotus feet of all the Vaishnavas to help me speak something. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyayevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So far, we have seen in this chapter how Raghunath Das Swami received the Gunjamala and the Govardhan Shila from Lord Chaitanya. And we have seen the description of the Govardhan Shila that he received and the Gunjamala that he received in great detail. In our previous session, when Kirtira Sundari Mataji gave the class, we saw the pictures of the Govardhan Shila as well as the beautiful Gunjamala that he was worshipping and that he received from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So continuing from text 301, it goes like this. Prabhuraswahastadatta Govardhana Shila Ye Chinti Raghunatha Preme Bhasi Gela. The translation of the verses. Thinking of how he had received the Govardhan Shila directly from the hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Raghunath Das was always overflooded with ecstatic love. So we have already seen the description of these two beautiful gifts that he received from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and how Lord Chaitanya himself had worshipped them with so much love. And now Raghunath Das Goswami had received it and he was feeling so happy and ecstatic that he had received such great benedictions from Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text 302. जलतुलिसीरा सेवाया तान्रयत सुखोदया षोडश उपचार पूजाय तत सुकनया. Translation. The amount of transcendental bliss that Raghunath Das enjoyed simply by offering water and tulasi is impossible to achieve even if one worships the deity with 16 kinds of paraphernalia. So this verse, it talks about the Shoda Upachara that is generally offered to the deity during deity worship. So what are these? Upachara means basically service, devotional service that is rendered deity, and Shodasha is 16. So generally in deity worship, there are about 16 things that one offers to the deities. Now, certain worships, there could be some differences in this list of 16 items, but the general list of 16 items in the worship of a deity involves avahana, that is actually invocation of the deity, then asana, offering a seat for the deity before you start worshipping him. And then you have padya, which is offering water to wash the feet. And then argya, offering water to wash the hands. Achamaniya, which is offering water to drink. And then snana or abhisheka, which is bathing. And then vastra, that is giving a cloth to the deities or dressing up the deities. And then there is a Yagnopavita, which is the sacred thread that is there for the deities that we offer. And then sometimes, of course, almost in all deity worship, we do offer gandha or sandalwood pulp or any sort of perfume. And then pushpa, which is flowers, and then dhupa, which is incense, deepa or arati, which is oil lamp or a ghee lamp for the deity, and then naivedya, which is offering food, that is the bhoga offering. And then we have namaskara or offering our respects, and then parikrama, circumambulating the deity, and finally visarjana, which is taking leave. So in any form of deity worship, generally these 16 items are generally offered. Of course, it is not a rule that in everybody, at home they offer all these 16 items, but we see that it is a tradition that at least some of these items are offered. Like, for example, of course, we wake up the deities, we invocate the deities, we wake them up, and then we offer them a seat, and then we offer them water. That's a general tradition that we offer water. And then we bathe the deities, we give them bhoga, and we offer the arati, which at least consists of dhoop, deep, flower, and so on. So the basic is Dhoop, Deep, and Flower. So these are all some of the articles that we offer in deity worship. 16 items can be offered, and that is first class standard. However, we see that in this particular pastime where Raghunath Das Goswami received these beautiful gifts of Govardhan Shila and Gunjamala from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in this verse it is mentioned that Raghunath Das Goswami kept the worship very simple. He offered some flower and some tulasi, which is a very, very simple form of worship. But still, Krishna is not looking for all these, if everything is in order, if all the articles are in order, and if your Shodasha Upachara is perfect, he's not worried about that. He's more worried about the love and intention. So generally, when people have Shalagram Shila or Govardhan Shila, the most basic worship includes offering water, that is bathing the deity. It can be some sort of a fragrant water. The water is generally made fragrant by adding some camphor, raw camphor, and then cardamom, and you have this saffron. So generally, all these three articles are mixed in water, and some tulasi is also added so that the water becomes really fragrant, and then the deities are bathed. The Shalagram Shilas or whatever Shilas you have, they are bathed with this water and wiped out clean and dry. They are wiped out clean and dry, and then you have some chandan and tulasi that is generally offered. So it's a very simple form of worship, and of course Dhoop Deep is that's all added. But this is the basic, and if you remember, we have seen this in Chaitanya Charitamrita over and over, and every year during Gaur Purnima we hear the story of Advaita Acharya asking Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to descend. So at that time, we read that actually he was worshipping the Shalagram Shila with water, Ganges water, Tulasi, and Chandan. So that is pretty much standard in any sort of Shila worship. So similarly, we see here that Raghunath Das Goswami was actually worshipping his Govardhan Shila with water and tulasi, with nice water and tulasi. That is basic. So even in the Bhagavad Gita, we have heard over and over that Krishna tells us that it is the intention and love of the offerings that is most important rather than the opulence in the offering. And this is the most famous verse that everybody knows: Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yo Me Bhaktya Prayachati. So, bhakti or intention or love is actually the core of devotion in any sort of deity worship. If that is lacking, then everything else is a waste. But even if others are not done perfectly, but if there is love, then everything is okay. So that is pretty much what Raghunath Das Goswami was doing very nicely. He had simple offerings. He just had water and tulasi, and that happiness that Krishna perceived out of his worship cannot be matched, even if Shodasha Upachara was given to the deity. So that's how Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is actually explaining this verse. Mm. So he had great faith. He had great faith that Krishna is really present in the Govardhan Shila. Now, to develop love, one needs faith. So without faith, you're not going to develop love. If you don't have faith that the deity, Krishna, is really present in the deity that you are worshipping, then where is the question of having love towards the deity? So therefore, Raghunath Das Goswami, he just didn't look at it like a stone or something. He really understood the importance of Govardhan Shila, and moreover, he was so fortunate to have received it directly from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's hands. And also, we saw in our previous session the picture of that Govardhan Shila and the thumb imprint of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's thumb imprint had almost melted the stone so beautifully. I mean, we should not even call it a stone, it's a deity. So, Govardhan Shila was even melted by the touch of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is the Govardhan Shila that Raghunath Das Goswami actually had, and he had a lot of faith and a lot of love, and he had very simple worship formula for these deities. However, one day it so happened that Swarup Damodar Goswami, he approached Raghunath Das Goswami, and he went and told him that actually it will be nice if you offer some nice bhoga to the deities. See, when we talk about deity worship at home, at least, these are some simple things that we do offer. Bhoga is something that we do regularly, at least one time or two times or three times, depending on the convenience of the person who's worshipping. At least a little bit bhoga is a tradition. So we all offer a little bit bhoga, we offer a little tulasi, some water. These are all very, very basic things. So one day, Swarup Damodar, he went to Raghunath Das Goswami and he told him, it'll be very nice if you can offer your Govardhan Shila 8 kaudis worth of first class sweetmeats called as Kaja and Sandesha. Now, what is Kaudi? Kaudi is actually, it is a way of, it's used as a circulation currency until 19th century in eastern part of India, which is Bengal, Odisha, those areas. So it was used as circulation currency, just like those days they used copper coins, right, for trading and for buying things. So like that, they used to use these cowries, or they're called as cowries. These are basically conch shells, little conch shells. You can Google it up and see cowries, what cowries mean. So these are tiny conch shells that even in Kerala now also they use these conch shells for so many purposes like astrology and other things. So these conch shells, they are used as like how we would use pennies or cents or something like that while having some exchanges, while buying articles. So they use these, and what Swarup Damodar Goswami was telling Lord Chaitanya, Raghunath Das Goswami, is that you just use 8 kaudis worth of, go to the shop, get 8 kaudis worth of sweetmeats. And especially he says Khaja and Sandesh. Because Khaja is, of course, very, very famous in Orissa. Everyone knows Jagannath Khaja. And he says that if you offer these two sweets with a lot of faith and love, it will be just like nectar. And Jagannath Mahaprasad, integral part of Jagannath Mahaprasad is Kaja. Everyone knows Jagannath Kaja. Anything to do with Lord Jagannath, any Chappan Bhog, anything, it's never complete without Kaja. And you all know how Kaja is made, most of you make it also. So it's a very nice sweet made with flour, and it is fried and dipped in sugar syrup. It's very, very tasty, and it's one of Jagannath's favorite bhoga prasad that is offered on a regular basis. It's almost like an emblem of Jagannath culture. And of course, Sandesh is another sweet that is very popular in Eastern India, especially in the Bengal region, where milk is curdled and they make chena and then mix it with some sugar and some flavor, and it is made in different flavors, basically. So that is sandesh. These two are very popular sweets in that region, and it was Swarup Damodar Goswami's suggestion to Raghunath Das Goswami that besides offering water and tulasi, it would be wonderful if you offer these two sweets also for your Govardhan Shila. So then Raghunath Das Goswami, we all know that he was not a householder or he didn't have an income or anything like that. So he decided on the suggestion of on the suggestion of Swarup Damodar Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami decided to offer these two sweetmeats, and he told with the help of Govinda, if I'm not wrong, he procured these sweetmeats for 8 kauris, and he was able to offer it to his dear deity, which is the Govardhan Shila that was given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, like this, he would make these offerings, and he was extremely grateful for whatever he had received from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So again, all these qualities, they are all intertwined. Until you feel very grateful for Krishna being in your house, you're not going to have love for the deity. So you need both faith, and you should feel grateful that the Supreme Lord himself has decided to come and stay with us. So these two are integral part in deity worship. These are the ones that are more important rather than the externals. So generally, we have a tendency to concentrate on the externals, how perfectly I'm offering the Shodashopachara. That is good. It has to be done. No doubts about it. But also, we see in this pastime that the internal mood is extremely important. One must have faith. One must feel very grateful that the deity has descended right there. And then one must also develop love based on this faith. And then Krishna feels very, very happy. So, like this, with lot of love, whatever he could procure, he would offer this based on the suggestion of Swarup Damodar Goswami. So, the bliss that Raghunath Das Goswami had while he was worshipping his deity was boundless. And he would forget everything else in the world. He forgot everything else external. He would constantly think about his deity and the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his mind and body, and all that he knew was only service. So we'll go on to the next verse, which is 309. Ananta guna raguna tera ke kari bhale ka raguna tera niyama yena pashanera rekha. So the translation is, who could list the unlimited transcendental attributes of Raghunath Das? His strict regulative principles were exactly like stones on a line. So it's a very beautiful comparison. Pashanera Rekha. So we all know that you can draw lines anywhere. You can draw lines on sand. You can draw lines on any other place, and it can get erased eventually over a period of time. However, when there are lines on a stone, right? You have lines on a stone. It's really, really deep, and it cannot be erased with time. So, therefore, this verse explains that the kind of austerities and the strictness that Raghunath Das Goswami had in following the regulative principles were like lines on a stone. So, he followed the regulative principles very strictly, and it cannot be erased at any point in time, just like how lines on stone can never be erased. So, he never compromised on a single principle, and he could not change any of the regulative principles at any point in time. So what all did he do? That is also explained in the Chaitanya Caritamtra. We see that Raghunath Das Goswami, he spent more than 22 hours out of the 24 hours in chanting. So he was constantly chanting the holy names. He was remembering the lotus feet of the Lord. And as everyone knows, he's an epitome of austerity. He ate and slept less than 1.5 hours. So the total amount that he spent on other things was less than 1.5 hours. And some days he didn't eat also. He didn't give too much importance for eating and sleeping. He hardly slept. 1.5 hours is really, really less. So that sort of renunciant was Raghunath Das Goswami. And he was exemplary, and throughout his life, he never allowed his tongue to engage in sense gratification. He never hankered for much clothing. All that he wore was a torn cloth and a wrapper around it that was also full of, it was patchworked wrapper. That's how Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes his clothing. So very frugal eating, hardly anything he ate. He hardly slept. He hardly wore anything opulent or anything that everyone would desire to have. So these are some basic things that all of us look forward to: good food and then nice clothing and a nice house to stay in. So these are some basic things that most of us look forward to, and very importantly, good sleep. At least for me, I can say. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he was beyond all this. He was beyond all this. Lived very frugally in terms of eating, in terms of of clothing, and very rigidly he executed the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he is the biggest example for everyone to live as a perfect renunciant. So anyone who wants to understand what renunciation is, they take inspiration from Raghunath Das Goswami. The other point is that the spiritual master generally he gives different instructions and orders to different people. So Prabhupada makes this very clear in the purport. Because we're talking so much about Raghunath Das Goswami and his renunciation, does it mean that everyone is expected to be like Raghunath Das Goswami? The answer is no. Srila Prabhupada clarifies that very nicely in the purport. He says that the spiritual master he gives different instructions to different people. And the example given is what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we see that he ordered Jiva Goswami, Rupa Goswami, and Sanatan Goswami to preach. We have seen that in the previous chapter. So they were asked to extensively preach and write wonderful books. Whereas he ordered Raghunath Das Goswami to strictly follow the rules and regulations of the renounced order. So, depending on the propensity and the capability of the devotee, specific instructions are given by the spiritual master to those devotees to execute certain tasks. Okay, so these are called as specific instructions. Generally, there are two set of instructions that are given. One is the general instructions which everyone has to follow. Okay, that is we all know, at least in ISKCON, for us as said by Srila Prabhupada, the general instruction for everybody is to chant 16 rounds and follow the four regulator principles. That is standard, everyone has to do it. There is no ifs and buts, but everyone does it. But when we talk about specific instructions, the spiritual master he knows the propensity of his disciple. He knows what the disciple is capable of. Seeing the propensity and the capability of his disciples, he tends to give certain specific instructions which they can execute. It's not that the spiritual master knows that, oh, he's capable, so I will give him this instruction. Even if he's not capable, sometimes the spiritual master empowers that devotee to execute that task. So we have seen this many times, even in Srila Prabhupada's case, how Srila Prabhupada would give certain specific instructions to some of his devotees. Some of the devotees are asked to, like for example, we have the case of Yashomati Nandan Prabhu, who recently passed away. He was a Gujarati. He knew to speak Gujarati very well, and therefore he was asked to go and preach in Gujarat. So that was a specific instruction. Now he wouldn't call someone else who didn't have that skill to go and execute that specific instruction. Similarly, we see Tamal Krishna Maharaj. He was a great commander, and he was asked to go to China. So Prabhupada very well knew that for Tamal Krishna Maharaj's you know, personality, that would be very ideal. He wouldn't have probably asked someone else who didn't have that personality to go and preach in China. And there is another beautiful pastime of Srila Prabhupada and Jayapatak Maharaj. So once Prabhupada, Jayapatak Maharaj, all of them, they were passing through a church. They were passing across a church as they were walking. And then Prabhupada looked at the church and he asked his disciples who were walking with him, do you think our temples can continue like this in the future? So he showed his cane towards the church and he said, actually, I see that in this church, there are some inmates, but most of the congregation is living around. They are all living at homes around, and then they come and they serve in the church, and then they go back home. So, do you think in the future that our ISKCON congregation can sustain like this? So, at that time, remember that if you remember some years back, before ISKCON became like this, it was mostly all the devotees were staying in the temple and they were preaching. They were going on book distribution and they would do temple services, staying right there in the temple. They didn't have many congregation devotees earlier. But today it is all very very different, right? In temple devotees are very less these days. We just have like a handful of them, five six of them, but the rest of them who serve in the temple are the congregation members who come from their homes, who have jobs outside, who come from their homes, they serve at the temple and they go. So that was actually the seed for congregational development that later Jayapatak Maharaj, it was a spark for him. The statement of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada pretty much predicted that in the future, this is how our ISKCON should function. So Jeptak Maharaj, he picked up that idea, and then we see how the Congregational Development Ministry has been established, and we have devotees from all around the city and different towns coming and becoming a part of his congregation, and then serving in the temple, and then going back home. So, like that, different disciples of Srila Prabhupada were given different tasks. Mm, Again, we see in the case of Bhakti Swami Maharaj how he was strictly, he was rather encouraged to strictly stay in the renounced order of life, while other devotees, other disciples of Srila Prabhupada, were asked to become grihasthas, even if they wanted to be in the renounced order. So, like this, we see different instructions to different devotees depending on their propensity. And there's nothing, that's how a congregation can sustain, because every one of us, we have a role to play in this Krishna conscious movement. It is not that everyone can just do austerity or everyone can become scholars. It's not like that. Everyone has a specific role to play. That is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. It's variegatedness. Everyone, it is so variegated. It is so lively. It has all inclusiveness of different kinds of devotees. So not everyone is the same. Everyone has something special about them and something that they can contribute in Srila Prabhupada's movement, in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. And that is the beauty, right? Even Krishna is like that. He enjoys variety. Krishna doesn't like the same thing over and over. He enjoys a lot of variety and he enjoys unique relationships with all his devotees. So he doesn't want the same kind of relationship to hanker everywhere. So that's how Krishna is, and that's how our Krishna conscious movement is. It's very, very vibrant, and everyone has a role to play. So, like this, though all the Goswamis, they had different tasks to perform. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chose each one for a different task. He chose Raghunath Das Goswami to be the perfect renunciant. He chose Jiva Goswami to write the Sandarbhas, to write scholarly books, to do his research and write very scholarly books. So everyone had a specific role to play. So, though they had different roles to play, one thing is that all of them they followed the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very strictly, and that is the principle of progress in devotional service. So, when one is able to follow the instructions, the simple, the general instructions, and the specific instructions given by the spiritual master very nicely, then progress in Krishna consciousness is happens for sure. Mm. And talking about devotional renunciation that Raghunath Das Goswami had, the devotional renunciation that Raghunath Das Goswami had was actually very, very straightforward. And when we talk about devotional renunciation is not very dry like mundane renunciation or the renunciation of the jnanis. Why is that so? Why was Raghunath Das Goswami enjoying this renunciation while he was being such a great renunciant? Today, when we talk extremely hard, it is not easy for us to have renunciation very nicely. But however, when we talk about renunciation and devotional service, it becomes very pleasant. It is not like any sort of dry renunciation. Why? Because all that one has to do when we talk about renunciation in Krishna consciousness is to refrain from sinful activity, and rather than avoiding any sort of activity, we engage in some activity, but that activity is an act of devotion. So when one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, when one's activities are engaged in Krishna consciousness, the little bit austerity or renunciation that one is taking does not become a burden on him. So this is the concept of how Raghunath Das Goswami was enjoying his renunciation. Of course, all said and done, we cannot be like Raghunath. At least I can never be like Raghunath Das Goswami or anybody else who can do very good renunciation and very good austerities. But okay. But however, there are devotees who can do some sort of austerity and still uh, enjoy the process. Why? Because they are positively engaged in Krishna consciousness. Because they are positively, nicely engaged in Krishna consciousness, they are able to gain strength from that service and at the same time carry out that austerity. And we have wonderful devotees even on our own call who can do excellent austerity and still be very, very enthusiastic throughout the day. So, how are they enthusiastic throughout the day, and how are they so positive in spite of doing so much austerity? That is because they're gaining their strength from doing the devotional activity, because Krishna sustains them from within. So, therefore, they are able to carry out whatever Krishna desires. So that is the beauty of Yukta Vairagya, the where Rupa Goswami has taught us this principle of Yukta Vairagya in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. And he tells that even mundane things can be used in Krishna's service. So when we talk about renunciation, it's not that we give up everything and we go and sit in the Himalayas, and it's not like that. Rather, whatever is there, this computer, the speaker, this phone, everything we can use in in Krishna's service, and still be renounced, not have much attachment to all of it. So, like this, Raghunath Das Goswami, he was a perfect renunciant. He did austerities like no one could do, and he also pleased Krishna in the process. And it was not that he was morose, that he was doing austerities. Rather, he was just getting the bliss of Krishna consciousness in whatever he did. Whatever he ate was very, very frugal, and he just ate to keep his body and soul together. And sometimes, if he had a tendency to eat something more, he would reproach himself. He would recite a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, as mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. This verse is quoted in Chaitanya Caritamtra in this chapter. This is directly from the Bhagavatam 7:15-40. If one's heart has been cleansed by perfect knowledge and one has understood Krishna, the Supreme Brahman, he then gains everything. Why should such a person act like a debauchee by trying to maintain his material body very carefully? And in the purport, Prabhupada writes, this verse is from the Bhagavatam 7:15-40, and it was spoken by Narada Muni to Yudhishthir Maharaj regarding a householder's liberation from material bondage. On the spiritual platform, one does not unnecessarily care for the body. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has written, Deha Smriti Nahi Yara Samsara Bandhana Kahantara. One who spiritually is situated does not think that he is the body. Therefore, he can transcendently execute severe penances in the renounced order of life. The best example of such renunciation is Raghunath Das Goswami. He was beyond the bodily concept of life and bodily identifications. So this was Raghunath Das Goswami. He performed severe austerities, and he could do that because he was beyond the bodily concept of life. So when we tend to associate too much with our body, automatically our needs are endless. But if the consciousness is so fine tuned to Krishna consciousness and always thinking about the Lord, always thinking about the lotus feet of the Lord, then one's bodily identifications reduce and reduce and reduce, and it becomes very, very frugal, like how Raghunath Goswami was actually living his life. So he ate very frugally, and some examples are given in this particular chapter itself. In Jagannath Puri, Lord Jagannath's prasadam is actually sold by some shopkeepers. So whatever prasadam is, whatever bhoga is offered to the Lord, it becomes prasadam, and then it is taken and it is sold by many shopkeepers for a few rupees outside the temple. And whatever is not sold, whatever is not being sold for that particular day, that decomposes in about 2 or 3 days. So what Raghunath Das Goswami would do is he would go around and collect this decomposed rice that has been even refused by the cows and other animals that live on the road. So this prasadam that is not sold out and that has become decomposed and that is not taken by anyone, that is rejected and that is decomposed for more than 2 3 days, he would go and collect that decomposed rice. He would bring it home. He would wash it. I mean, bring it to the place where he was living, and he would wash it nicely with ample water. And then he collected the hard inner portion of that rice and he would eat it with salt. So this kind of austerity, very frugal eating, and this kind of austerity, even if he ate something, it was like this. This is how Raghunath Das Goswami was eating. Actually, in some verses before, I think this was in our previous class, we saw that initially Raghunath Das Goswami was actually sustaining himself by begging. He would just, like how, Madhukari, they do Madhukari, right? So, but then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discouraged him. He said, no, it's not a good idea. It's not nice to, stand there begging for alms. You don't want to do it. And so Raghunath Das Goswami, the next step, if at all he felt like he had to eat a little bit, this is what he would do. He would wait. He would wait till the rice is all rejected by everyone, and then he would clean it and he would eat a little bit of it. This went on for some time, and one day Swarup Damodar Goswami, he saw the activities of Raghunath Das Goswami. He saw what Raghunath Das Goswami was doing, and he went to Raghunath Das Goswami and he smiled and he said, can you give me a little bit of what you're eating? You're eating such nice food every day and you don't even share it with us. What sort of activity is this? You're not even sharing the nectar that you're getting regularly. And Swarup Damodar Goswami was he just felt so happy the way Raghunath Das Goswami was conducting himself. So when he saw that Raghunath Das Goswami was doing this, he also wanted to share what Raghunath Das Goswami was doing. So Swarup Damodar, he went and he asked for some rice that he was eating, and he also very happily ate that rice. And this news actually was heard by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, that Raghunath Das was surviving like this, and Swarup Damodar also got a little bit nectar from Raghunath Das. And through the mouth of Govinda, who's actually the servant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard about all this, how Raghunath Das Goswami was living now. So the next day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also went to Raghunath Das and he went and he asked him, so Raghunath Das, it looks like you're eating very, very nice things and you're not sharing with us. Why can't you give me some of it? And Raghunath Das Goswami was so embarrassed. He was so embarrassed to give this stale rice. But however, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu forcibly he grabbed a morsel of that stale rice and he ate it with a lot of love. Now, this is the mood of the Lord. So, this is very similar to the pastime of Sudama Brahmana. When Sudama Vipra he went to see the Lord, what did he have? He just had a palmful, a fistful of some chipped rice, right? That is what he had. Mm. So, but however, he was very hesitant. He was very, very hesitant to give it to the Lord. So he kept hiding it. He didn't want to give it to Lord Krishna. But however, Krishna forcibly grabbed it. So similarly, we see here how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, though Raghunath Das was eating this kind of a stale rice, he went and he asks Raghunath Das, why are you not sharing anything with me? And when Raghunath was too shy, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he just forcibly grabbed it from him and he began to eat it. And when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was eating the stale rice, Swarup Damodar Goswami caught him by his hand and he told him, this is not at all fit for you. You're the Supreme Lord. You should not be eating this. But Lord Chaitanya told him that every day I eat so many varieties of prasadam. I taste so many kinds of food. but I have never tasted such good prasadam that Raghunath Das is eating. So the idea is that the Lord was so appreciative of the mood of Raghunath Das Goswami. He had so much love for his devotee. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was relishing the nectar of his devotee's surrender and renunciation. That is the nectar that he was tasting. Of course, he was eating stale food. But what was he tasting? Why did he say that this is better than nectar? He said that because he was tasting his dear devotees, his dear Raghunath Das Goswami's surrender and renunciation. The mood is what the Lord hankers for. Like we saw in this verse, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prachati. So that bhakti, that love, that mood is what the Lord hankers for. And even in the case of Sudama Vipra that we just mentioned, uh, he uh, he got this palmful of chipped rice, and he didn't. As I said, he was very hesitant to give it to the Lord. But Krishna told him, "My dear Sudama, don't think that this chipped rice is unsuitable for me because it is stale and tasteless. Don't think like that. I like it very much. Moreover, don't think that this is not enough for me," because he had got very less, right? He had begged for that chipped rice and it was really, really less. So Sudama Vipra was thinking on so many things. He was thinking, this is so stale, this is so tasteless, this is so less. How will my Lord accept it? So Lord Krishna was telling him that don't think it is unsuitable for me because it is stale and tasteless. I like it very much. I enjoy it. And don't think it is not enough because it will not just satisfy me, but this chipped rice can satisfy the entire universe. And Prabhupada, in that particular verse in the Bhagavatam, he gives a beautiful, from the Krishna book, actually, the disciples of Prabhupada, they write in the purport that when Krishna is satisfied, the entire universe is satisfied. And what is needed to satisfy Krishna? Krishna satisfy the what is needed to satisfy Krishna is the love and devotion that a devotee shows. It is not the thing that is important, but it is the intention behind the thing that is important. So when Krishna is satisfied, then the devotee is also satisfied, the entire universe is also satisfied. So Krishna is like the root, and when we pour water to the root, everything is nourished. So like that, Lord Krishna, he was extremely satisfied with that little chip rice that Sudama Vipra gave. And similarly, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he relished the stale rice that was decomposed for more than 3 days that Raghunath Das would wash and eat. So this was Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Similarly, we see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dealings with Kolavecha Sridhar. So even in the case of Kolavecha Sridhar, it was just little, some bananas, but he would relish it so much. He would relish talking to Kolavecha Sridhar so much, bargaining with him, and then getting all of that. That gave him intense happiness. And also in the Mahabharata, we see the story of Vidura and his wife. They were giving him banana peels instead of banana, but Krishna was enjoying those banana peels like as if it was a luxurious feast. Mm. So for the Lord, anything his devotee gives with love is much better than nectar. There is another very nice pastime that I was reminded of. This is in the life of Sripad Ramanujacharya. In Sri Rangam, which was the headquarters of Sripad Ramanujacharya, there are different festivals that are celebrated throughout the year. So out of the 365 days of a year, almost 360 days there is a festival. Every day there is a festival. So one of the festival is called as Tirupavadai Utsavam. That is very similar to the Annakut festival that we do for Govardhan. So there is heaps of rice and vegetables and fruits and sweets and all that is offered to the Lord. Basically, it is spread on top of a big cloth. There is a big cloth that is spread, and then on top of that you have heaps of rice and sweets and sabjis and everything that is offered to the Lord. So this festival would occur once in a while in Sri Rangam, and before the festival was scheduled, Sripad Ramanujacharya and his disciples, they were discussing on the logistics of how to conduct the festival. So while they were discussing the logistics, they were taking a walk through the beach in where the Kaveri River flows. You have the banks of the Kaveri, and between the two rivers, which is called as Kaveri and Kollidam, there is a little island kind of a thing that is formed, and that is where the Ranganath Temple actually exists. So they were taking a walk along the beach of the Kaveri River, and when they were walking, they were discussing the logistics of how to conduct the festival the next day, which was this Annakut ceremony. So while they were talking and walking like that, they saw a few young boys who were actually playing on the shore of the beach. And in those days, the entire congregation there was very, very Krishna conscious, and whatever activities the young boys and girls did was also centered around the temple. So the boys, what they were playing is they were not playing any modern day games. Rather, they would enact the festival that would actually take place in the temple. The same festival that would take place in the temple, they would enact on the beach. And they just, they were, because they knew, the kids knew that the next day this festival is going to happen. They made a beautiful deity of Ranganath from the sand of that beach, from the mud or the dirt of that beach itself. They made a beautiful sand deity of Ranganath, and then they got yeah, and then they made like they drew a rectangle for a cloth, and then they put a little bit mounds of mud like prasadam, like bhoga. So they put mounds of rice. Basically, it was all dirt. It really didn't have any rice, sabji, dal, nothing of that sort. It didn't have fruits, vegetables, but they made everything from mud. Okay, everything from dirt. So they made mounds of rice offerings, mounds of sabjis, and all that they made, and they made this beautiful, beautiful thing. And one of the boys, he took the role of a pujari to make the offering to the deity. So they were enacting the festival that was to be conducted the next day in the temple, that these boys were enacting just with the sand. They didn't have real rice or dal, nothing. Just with sand, they were doing this. And then once the setup was all done and carved out beautifully by the boys, one of the boys took the role of a pujari. So he went and he started making the offering to that sand deity. Okay, he was making that offering and he was calling on to the Lord to come and eat everything. And after the offering was done, the person who distributes the prasadam after it is done came forward. Another boy took the role of that person, and he comes, and always the first prasadam is given to the leader or the Maharaj or the sannyasi of that place. And traditionally, in those days, they would call the pontiff or the leader of that place as GR. So he goes and he calls out this boy. He holds the mud prasadam in his hand, and he calls out Jia. Jia, he calls out. And the boy who's playing the role of Sripad Ramanujacharya has to come and has to accept this mud prasadam. Okay, because each one was taking one role. One boy was assigned to be Jia for that day. So he was supposed to come and accept that prasadam. However, it so happened when this boy called out Jia, Ramanujacharya, who's he was about 7 feet tall, he took 3 4 large steps and he came and he stretched out his hand to accept it. And the boys were shocked. They didn't expect Srimad Ramanujacharya himself to come and accept that to mud prasadam from them. But Ramanujacharya, at that point in time, he was seeing the mood and devotion of these kids. They were really doing it like as if they were in the temple serving Lord Ranganath himself. So he was so moved, and when the boy who was Jia had to come and pick up that prasadam, instead of him, Sripad Ramanujacharya himself came running, and he just stretched his cloth and he said, "Please give me the prasadam." And the boys were shocked. And the boy who was supposed to give it, he just dropped it. He just dropped that mud in Sripad Ramanujacharya's cloth. And Ramanujacharya, with a lot of love, he just picked the entire thing and he literally ate it. He just ate it. And people around him were shocked. They were thinking, what's wrong with him? Why is he eating so much dirt? What's wrong with him? It's not even prasadam, it's not rice, it's not fruits, it's not vegetables. Why is he eating the whole thing? And then they could see the satisfaction on his face, and they continued to work. Ramanujacharya gulped everything, and they continued to work. All the boys were stunned. They didn't understand what had happened. They were all so shocked. Everyone around was shocked. As they were moving forward, the disciples of Sripad Ramanujacharya, they wanted to continue their planning for the next day. So they asked, okay, Jia, so what's next? What do we have to do? How much rice should we buy? What is the cooking procedure? What are we going to do for the next day? And Ramanujacharya looked at his disciples and he told him that the festival is already over. Krishna has already accepted everything, and I have tasted the remnants. The festival is over. You can also taste the remnants from the boys. So, and everyone was shocked. What do you mean the festival is over? And Ramanujacharya told him, Krishna has already accepted it. Did you see the love and devotion in the boys? How they served the Lord? And I could see that that sand deity was Krishna, was Ranganath himself. And he very lovingly offered and he tasted everything. And the Mahaprasad had the remnants of Krishna. You can also taste it and see. So, this is how Krishna is actually. For him, whether it is sand prasad or opulent rice prasad, that doesn't matter. It is the intention and love. And that day, Ranganath had accepted that entire festival from the hands of the boys, and Ramanujacharya had confirmed it. Very much like how Krishna was so ready to eat that stale rice of Sudama, the stale chipped rice of Sudama, and very similar to how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he relished this 3-day old decomposed rice as topmost nectar. There is another story which I wanted to talk about. It's a very famous story of this lady who was cooking khichdi for Krishna. This is in Vrindavan. So, this story comes in the life of Sanatan Goswami, how Sanatan Goswami procured the deity of Madan Mohan. So, many of you must have heard the story of Sanatan Goswami. Sanatan Goswami, he used to go for Madhukari, that is collecting alms from one house to the other in those days. And one day he came across the house of one particular person by the name Purushottam Chube. I don't know how you call it in with Chaube or Chube. I'm not sure of the pronunciation, but he was basically a Brahmin in Mathura. And
Mataji, Chobe.
Chaube, okay, Purushottam Chaube, yeah. So that was the person who was actually worshipping this Madan Mohan deity. And when Sanatan Goswami was going from one house to the other, he came across this house and he saw that these people, this Chaube family, they had a very attractive deity of Madan Mohan. And he stopped there looking at the deity and looking at what these boys were doing in the house. So Chaube had some boys, some sons who were playing with Madan Mohan, and they treated Madan Mohan like a doll. Okay, he's actually a deity. But for kids, I mean, deities are like they are little dolls. So they were really, really treating Madan Mohan like a doll. And he also noticed one more thing, that the kids were spontaneously, yeah, so, since the kids were treating the deity like a doll, obviously they were spontaneously worshipping Madan Mohan like a friend. Not only that, Sanatan Goswami also saw the mother, that is Chaube's wife, in the kitchen. And he was shocked to see what she was doing. She was actually brushing her teeth. Hmm? And in those days, as we all know, they brushed their teeth with a neem toothbrush. So she had a neem stick and she was brushing her teeth. And with the same toothbrush or the same neem stick, she was also stirring a pot of khichdi. And what was that khichdi for? It was supposed to be bhoga for her Madan Mohan. So she was doing this, and Sanatan Goswami was really shocked and he was very, very upset. Now, Sanatan Goswami is the author of Hari Bhakti Vilas, so you can imagine the kind of cleanliness and standard that he expects. So he was really shocked to see this woman. She's still brushing her teeth, and not only that, she's using the same toothbrush to stir khichdi for the deity. So he was like totally upset and shocked, and he went to Chobe and he told him, what are you doing? This is not how you treat a deity. Your kids are playing with the deity like a doll, and your wife is stirring. She's brushing her teeth halfway through. She's stirring the khichdi with the same stick. It's a high time aparad, so this is not how you worship a deity. And then Chaube was very embarrassed, and he told Sanatan Goswami, actually, we don't know how to serve Madan Gopal. We don't know how to serve Madan Mohan. And he's a very ancient deity. This Madan Mohan is a very ancient deity, and he was installed 5,000 years ago by Krishna's great grandson Vajranab. But however, we have this deity, but we don't know exact rules and regulations, and we cannot serve him properly. And Sanatan Goswami said, no, you have to follow certain rules. I'll teach you all the rules. And once the family was taught the different rules of worship, they became very strict with the deity. They started, keeping a little distance from the deity, and whatever offerings they were making, they started doing it in a very fearful way because they were scared of making further mistakes. And Madan Mohan, when the family had changed drastically like this, listening to the rules and regulations of Sanatan Goswami, Madan Mohan became very, very upset. So he appeared in Sanatan Goswami's dream and he said, why did you ruin everything? You've simply spoiled everything. These people, they treated me like their own family. I was like one of their sons. And these children were really my brothers and sisters. And she was really like my mother. I used to play so nicely there. And Maya used to brush her teeth while cooking because she knows that I'm very hungry in the morning. As soon as I wake up, I'm extremely hungry. So, out of love and devotion for me, because I would be super hungry, that's the reason while she was brushing, she was cooking. I didn't see any fault in her using her toothbrush and stirring the khichdi. So, all these rules and regulations has just spoiled all the love and affection that they had for me. Now they are looking at me so reverentially, and I simply hate it. So this is how Madan Gopal actually reacted at that time. And then he told Sanatan Goswami, okay, now it's time. Now you take me away from here and you worship me according to how you would like to worship me. And eventually, yes, Madan Mohan, he did move with Sanatan Goswami. So the idea of this is not that tomorrow we take our toothbrush and go and start stirring khichdi for the deities. That's not the idea. But it's just to show how the Lord relishes the mood of his devotee. If we do that tomorrow, we will be doing big time aparad. After having the knowledge of how to worship a deity, if we take the deities for granted, that's not correct. But these Brajavasis, they were in a spontaneous, loving mood, and they could do certain things, and still it was not considered an aparad because their intentions were so pure. So, unless our intentions and our love and devotion become so pure, we have no right to transgress rules and regulations. Anyway, this is the mood of Krishna. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like this, it is explained that he performed many, many pastimes in Jagannath Puri, and he was extremely pleased with the severe penances and austerities that were performed by Raghunath Das Goswami, and he was very, very satisfied with Raghunath Das Goswami. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he just continued all these austerities all his life, even in the later years, even after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived in this world for about, if I'm not wrong, 48 years. And after that, even after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we know that Raghunath Das Goswami, he actually wanted to end his life. He decided to go off to Vrindavan and jump from the Govardhan hill. But then Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, they told him not to do that. And they told him to continue on, live on, and then enlighten the Vrajavasis on the different pastimes of Sriman Mahaprabhu. They just told him, talk about Mahaprabhu and you will feel better, but there's no question of ending your life. So Raghunath Das Goswami, for about 3 hours every day on the banks of the Radha Kund, he would speak about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And his daily bhajan included 64 rounds of chanting japa. He would do Manas Seva in a spiritual body. He would bathe in Radha Kund. He would offer 1,000 obeisances to Krishna and 2,000 obeisances to Vaishnavas every day, and he would embrace them. He would rest only 90 minutes. That's about 1.5 hours. That is all the rest he would take. Some days he would not even sleep. He would keep his mind always engaged in thoughts of Krishna. and he always served Krishna, and he ate later. This was later. So we saw different phases. First, he was doing Madhukari, then he started eating the rejected rice. And then later, after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disappearance, it is said that he would just take a little bit, a 1 leaf cup of buttermilk every day. That is all he ate. And he didn't do anything for sense gratification. He took the bare minimum need for his body, whatever was needed to keep his body and soul together, that is all he took. And after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sometimes he just, it is mentioned that he just sometimes rarely just ate some fruit or milk. And after Sanatan Goswami left, that 1 leaf cup of buttermilk even reduced. It was just hardly anything. And after Rupa Goswami left, it is mentioned that he almost stopped eating and drinking. So he would just take 1 leaf cup of buttermilk or half-leaf cup of buttermilk, and eventually he stopped even that. Why? Because he was feeling that burning separation from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and also the associates of Lord Chaitanya, like the Goswamis, like Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, and others. And the Vrajavasis, when they would see this intense austerity that he would do, they would cry seeing the weakened condition of Raghunath Das Goswami. So Raghunath Das Goswami, not only was he known for austerities, yes, he did write some books as well. And some of the very beautiful works of Raghunath Das Goswami is the Stavavali, which contains the Manasiksha, and then Mukta Charitra, which is very famous, the Pearl pastime, Mukta Charitra, and then Danakili Chintamani. Um, However, there is one particular poem that Raghunath Das Goswami wrote, and it is very, very famous. And that poem is quoted in text 327 of this chapter. So this poem is called as Gauranga Stava Kalpa Vriksha. And Raghunath Das Goswami, in that particular poem itself, in verse 327, he has described his own deliverance in the hand of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Whatever pastime we have been seeing in this chapter, uh, you know, Raghunath Das Goswami himself has mentioned it in the poetry that he has written. So let's look at that verse. You can see it on the screen as well. महत्सम्पत्तावदपि पतितमुद्धृत्य कृपया स्वरूपे स्वीये कुञ्जनमापि माम्यासमुदिता उरोगुञ्जहारं प्रेयमापि च गोवर्धनशिलम् ददौ मे गौरङ्गो हृदया उदयन् मां मदयति. Although I am a fallen soul, the lowest of men, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered me from the blazing forest fire of great material opulence by his mercy. He handed me over in great pleasure to Swarup Damodar, his personal associate. The Lord also gave me the garland of small conch shells that he wore on his chest and a stone from Govardhan hill, although they were very dear to him. That same Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu awakens within my heart and makes me mad after him. So this is the pastime that is described throughout this chapter. The Gunjamala, or the small conch shells, reminded him of Srimati Radharani, and the Govardhan Shila reminded him of Krishna. So, because he had received these two gifts from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, he always felt the embrace of both Radha and Sri Krishna. And he knew that he was always in the shelter of Sri Radha Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This verse is from the poem that he had written, Sri Gauranga Stava Kalpavriksha, and this is verse number 11. So, like this, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he winds up this chapter. He says, thus I have described the meeting of Raghunath Das with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and anyone who hears about this incident, the dealing between Lord Chaitanya and Raghunath Das Goswami, he surely attains the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he ends this chapter with a very classic verse, praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy. I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita following in their footsteps. So with this, we end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Lila, 6th chapter, describing Lord Chaitanya's meeting with Raghunath Das Goswami. So thank you all so much for this very wonderful opportunity to hear, read, and speak about Raghunath Das Goswami. Uh, as far as austerities go, I'm a big zero. I cannot do even 1 ounce of austerity. So at least speaking about him, reading about him gives me some purification. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much. It's so nice to have you in the call and hear from you, Mataji. Thank you so much. It was so nice. You took us. You shared so many pastimes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anjana Gopika Mataji. Dandavats.
Hare Krishna Mataji, very nice class, and we missed you so much in Bhakti Sangha. And I like this part where you told the story of this Mataji. Well, this lady who was like using like a little
Toothbrush.
tooth, yeah, thing, and like um cooking for Krishna, and like, I mean, I thought that was kind of interesting. So
Thank you, Anshu. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. You're so attentive in all the kids' classes, adult classes, everywhere, and you connect so well with the speakers. Thank you so much, Anshu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear Preethi Vilasini Mataji. Thank you so much. Now I can say our grandmother is back. Grandmother is back with all those beautiful.
Thank
Listening.
you, Kirtida.
So happy that you are here. And as Anshu also mentioned, we were really missing you a lot. And I'm so happy. And thank you for, taking into so many stories depicting, the main mood of worshiping the Supreme Lord. It's just out of faith. Externals are important to some extent, but when one dives into Raganuga, then it's what matters is just one's faith and devotion. And that was exemplified by Raghunath Das Goswami so wonderfully. And of course, as you said, that if we try to imitate his renunciation, we will not be able to live. It's so difficult. But yes, we should follow his footsteps. And his renunciation, his vairagya was outstanding. So, but thank you for coming on the call. Thank you for sharing so many pastimes. So many.
Thank you,
Hare,
Kirtida Mataji,
Hare
for
Krishna Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna Preethi Vilasini. Thank you for a wonderful class. I hope you can hear me. I have a question, and my question is this: was as you were explaining about the story of the children playing with the deities and stuff. So as parents, well, as grandparents, basically not parents now, but as grandparents, when our kids are doing things which we kind of consider, like, where's the line? Where do you draw the line? Because like my grandchildren come over and they'll go into the temple room and they'll start taking the Panchapatra and they'll start playing with it and they'll want to grab Prabhupada, and obviously they can't grab Prabhupada, but they'll grab, like his water, and they'll want it, and you don't want to squash they're kind of imitating us in a sense, because when they're doing the water, they have watched their grandfather do something, so they're doing it. So where do you draw the line? Like, I'm kind of afraid to, like, I don't want to say don't go in there, right? I don't want to say don't go in there. You can't be in there, because it will kind of change there. It will make it sound like it's a bad place to be or they shouldn't be there. So where's the line? How do you draw the line? Where do you decide what's really aparada and you need to stop them? If that makes sense.
yeah, it's a very tough question, because as you said, if you stop them, then they're gonna, like you said, they're gonna think that it's a very dangerous place or something like that. But I think yes, some amount of flexibility with kids is important. You can't keep. Where do you draw the line? That's a good question. Uh, if it's going to be, if you feel it's going to be complete, really disrupting the cleanliness of that place, or it is going to disrupt the basic, like, they're going to suppose move away the deities, or just take them away or play or throw, then it's really a problem. But then to playing here and there and then trying to imitate their parents, I think that is a way for them to actually develop devotion to the Lord, because it's like a practice for them. So as long as they are clean, or they can just go and they can do what they can. Ultimately, it's the intention. That's how I look at it. But and for them, they are doing it out of love, right? So certain things are okay, but then if it's going to disrupt the entire place and it's going to create some more problems, then we should respect them. Like for example, I have not dealt much with kids actively, so I may not be able to answer this question, but I have seen some of my friends that
What happened? What's
they
correct?
just they just don't let their children pick the details or something, but still they allow to show some arati or offer some water.
What is Korean?
So maybe that helps. I don't know. I'm probably not the right person.
No, thank you, Mataji. Thank you. No, I appreciate that.
But you are the right person to answer that
No,
question.
well, that's like I said, with my kids, I was pretty strict, really, really strict. And I think you lose the spontaneity when you are so strict with children. And you don't want it to become a chore. So yeah, so I guess like you say, we have to like judge each situation and say, okay, this you can do, this you can't do.
Yeah, but some flexibility should be there. Otherwise, they'll hate that, right?
Yeah, I don't want to do that. Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. It's so wonderful to see you and hear you.
Very good.
Hi Krishna, Preethi, Danvat Pranams.
Hari bol, Sagri.
So nice to have you back again. Really nice. I liked all the past tense you described. I just have one question, so I thought I can ask you. Is that okay?
If I can answer, yes.
Yeah, sure. Basically, you were discussing like how Raghunath Das Goswami was leading such an austere life, and he would pick, food from the garbage and, honor it like that. And now many times we see also that, like the Ganga and Yamuna rivers are kind of polluted, especially Yamuna and Delhi. With at least when I was living there years back, with industrial waste, and there used to be like chemical fumes coming out from the water, things like that. So, but how as devotees, how should we look at it? I mean, I've also heard that some devotees fall sick after
Mm-hmm.
taking in Ganga water like that. So how do we understand, like how do we look at austerity and how Raghunath Das Goswami was eating stale food, and but we may not be able to do like that, right? So how should we look at it?
So I think we have one of our devotees on the call also. I don't know if she's on the call right now, but without taking her name, I can actually talk a little bit. So she did have some she still has health issues. And she was under the impression that if she just drinks Radhakund water, her problem would be eventually solved. Or, I mean, more like, she was just taking it like medicine rather, not that she thought that it's the solver of her problem, not like that. But she just wanted to take it as prasadam, Radhakund water. So what she did is she just collected Radhakund water in a little jug and she would keep drinking it. Eventually what happened was, because it's obviously she had not purified the water or something. Of course it is Radha Kund, but it's not like you'd gulp lots every day. When we go to Radha Kund, we just collect a little bit and we honor Radha Kund, and we probably just sprinkle it on our head. Some people I've seen, they take a sip. That is all okay. But to think that you're beyond and you're very your body can take anything and just start drinking Radha Kund water, she ended up having more problems. So then the devotees chastised her, telling that, who do you think you are? You think you are some sort of such an advanced devotee, that you have so much faith and so much surrender that you just drink any though it is pure water, it is divine water, still you just think that you can just gulp it and you'll be normal. You will fall sick. You have to follow certain things like purify the water and then take it. So The idea there, what the devotees told her, what she explained to me, is that yes, Radha Kund water is beyond everything. Yes, definitely it is very pure, but it is also the consciousness of the person who's accepting it. If that person can really, if that person is so surrendered and can handle things so nicely, then it's okay. But if you're not at that level, if you drink some polluted water, you are going to fall sick. You cannot reason with why you're not falling, why you are falling sick. So you will definitely fall sick. So that's what she told me, and I thought it makes so much sense. What she was explaining to me the other day was that I don't have, she said, I don't have that kind of faith and surrender that if I drink that Radha Kund water also, I'll be completely normal without purification. So here we see in the case of Raghunath Das Goswami, his mood, his surrender, that was very different. He was not even on the bodily platform of life. I mean, all of us, we are on the bodily concept of life. At least I can tell for myself, I identify so much with the body. So even if I eat a little, even prasadam, it is said, of course, in Chaitanya Caritamrita itself, we read that Jagannath prasadam, you should be, even if it has become stale, even if it is several months old, Narada Panchratra, Bhakti Sutra, they all say prasadam never gets stale. There is no question of getting stale. But sometimes when we eat it, we fall sick, right? If you're eating very stale food, or if you're drinking water like that, that is not purified, we do fall sick because of our identification, because of our bodily condition. But Raghunath Das Goswami was beyond all that. For him, nothing affected. And all the verses in this chapter also talk about it again and again. So for him, nothing happened, and he could handle it. So I think we should judge our own situations and then take a decision accordingly. Ideal would be to purify the water nicely and then take it, rather than. But if we have so much faith, I mean, so much faith, so much surrender, if we are so advanced, then that's okay. Krishna will take care of us. So in Raghunath Das Goswami's case, Krishna was taking care of him, and it all went well. Did that help, Mataji, in any way?
Oh, yes, Preeti, that was quite some information, but I was just wondering, so if we have, some, like, I mean, I'm not saying that we could be on the level of Raghunath Das Goswami or, the acharyas like that, but if we have that faith that Krishna will cure me, and then take the Radha Kund water, like you said, or, Yamuna water, like that, with that mood that, okay, Krishna is in charge and he's going to take care. So then you think we should be okay, right? I mean, Krishna
Yeah,
will.
but yeah, I mean, we should be okay. That's only for special cases. Again, most of us, I don't think we are anywhere close. So we just take it.
I
Yeah, but
like it. I like your class, Preethi Vilasini Mataji.
oh, Jahnavi, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Jahnavi. Yeah, but definitely Suksagari Mataji, we can take a sip at least for our own purification, a few sips or something like that. Hmm?
Hare Krishna Preethi Vilasini Mataji. Very, very wonderful class. And I heard the first time this is Ramanuja's. Uh, so then that's what I was thinking when you were talking about Panishwari Lakshmi Mataji. The kids are really wants to do it, and then like enthusiastically they're
Yeah.
doing. So let them do.
Yes,
And,
yes, yes,
and we can, clean up afterwards anyway.
yes, definitely, definitely.
Yeah. But not to break the rule of worship. And it was very wonderful, nice story about it's those boys
Hmm.
worshiping Ranganath and do everything as they do. And the next day there was no. That was a festival.
Hmm.
Very very nice. Thank you, Mother.
Thank you, Kamadaki Mataji.
I'm very happy to see you back, giving us nectar. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for all your blessings. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Preeti Vilasini Mataji. It's so good to see your precious face and to hear your class again. I'm so happy to see you. And of course, as always, the class was wonderful. I loved all the pastimes that you shared, and I love the points that you made about how, yes, Ranganath Das Goswami was quite austere. However, you know, the spiritual master gives us the service that is appropriate for us. And I think that that's beautiful and important to remember. And I also love the way that you shared Lord Chaitanya's reciprocations with his disciple, you know, with the devotees. It was so precious just to hear how loving he was. So thank you so much for the class, and Hare Krishna, it's so good to see you.
Thank you, Chaitanya Mataji. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being there.
Hare Krishna, Preethi Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Mataji, for giving a very precious and valuable association. And as always, your classes are very enlightening and giving so much of insight into the scriptures, Mataji. And Mataji, as per today's class, it's very clear, Mataji. I don't have any questions. But regarding Mataji, in South India and these months we see and observe as Dhanur Masa, which are very dear for Lord Ranganath. So Mataji, can you tell about some of the, what we can tell is like how to follow this when we are following Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya, Vaishnava and Sampradaya. So how can we do this, Mataji, when we are following this, and how can we read Tirupavai and how to do service to Lord Ranganath in these days, Mataji?
I'm not an expert, but all that I know is devotees, they do, it's very similar to the Katyayani Vrata that is done even in our tradition.
Yes, Mataji. Yes.
It's not any different. Actually, it's the same. It's the same thing that was followed in South by Andal. And reading Tirupavai, that is the compositions of Andal during this time is a tradition that is followed. It's very purifying and it's very meaningful. So one thing is, we can read the Tamil part of it, but also if we read the English, we would probably understand what she's telling and be more appreciative of what she has written. And she follows in the footsteps of the gopis of Vrindavan. That is pretty much what she does. Whatever the gopis of Vrindavan, whatever austerities they perform, the Katyayani Vrata, she follows the same thing. And her compositions are also in a similar mood. So definitely both the sampradayas, they kind of join at this point, especially in this Dhanur Mas, as you said. The kind of the mood of the Tirupavai is also the same as the gopis. It's very similar to what the gopis look forward to in Krishna's association. So I think if we do it, Tirupavai reading is very good. And if we can, if you're interested, there are some standard austerities for Katyayani Vrata which can be followed if interested. Otherwise, I don't think anyone really follows big austerities in South. I've seen that nobody follows anything. They just read Tirupavai. That is the standard. And you can appreciate the meaning of it. Appreciation of meaning is more important. Recital is nice, but I think we should appreciate what she has written and how she has composed these verses. I think others can also add. I know Sukhasagari Mataji, she does Tirupavai the whole month, so she can probably add if there is anything else she wants to suggest during this month. Or anyone else on the call.
Haribol Mataji, I just read the Tirupavai and I try to listen to the meaning and translation of it, Mataji. That's about it. I'm not doing anything else, Mataji.
Yeah, that's what generally people do. In most households, at least as far as I've seen, that's what they do. They don't do any austerity also much. They eat spiceless khichdi. That is the standard thing, right? In most places that they do. So that's all.
Yeah, the pastorams, they speak of waking up early.
3:30. Correct. They all wake up at 3:30 and they go for darshan at 4:30. It's a Mangalarti darshan. Everyone goes in the month of December. That is compulsory. Everyone goes at 4:30 to the temple. And they eat some spiceless, at least breakfast is kind of, just simple khichdi without any spice. And they read Tirupavai. That's all, Mataji.
Yeah, but I'm not even doing that part, Mataji.
Neither me, Mataji.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. Because some of my friends asked, because you are following ISKCON and you are in the mood of Krishna consciousness, so why are you not following this Katyayani, sorry, not Katyayani Vrata, this Dhanurmasa? Then I told the same thing that the Katyayani Vrata we do the same thing of Gopi's mood they carry too, but I want to better clarify with you, Mataji. So that's what I'm asking. And yeah, especially in this, they offer hot pongal and the dojanam, everything to Lord, breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, spiceless khichdi is what it means. Pongal and Dadyodhanam. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare.
Hey, Krishna Mataji, do they put the salt in this khichdi?
In the temple, they do put, right? If I'm not wrong. Yeah, but I think the actual standard is no salt also, no?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think just rice and dal and water.
Yeah, rice, dal, water, yeah.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Preethi Lakshmi Mataji, such a beautiful, wonderful class. And I like the story of Ramanujacharya accepting that mud that's offered with so much devotion. And so many wonderful points connected through that. You took us to Raghunath Das Goswami's time, Ramanujacharya's time. Definitely, you're a very empowered Pauranika to take us from where we are and immerse us into another timeline by your very natural, wholehearted, straightforward, and vibrant presentation. Wonderful, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for everything, Laltangi Mataji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hari Bol, Vrinda.
Beautiful class, Mataji. So good to see you. So happy to see you. I really liked all the past times. You narrated so beautifully how Raghunath Das Goswami is doing his austerities and the pastime of Sanatana Goswami. I have one question about austerity, Mataji. Austerity is something which we do voluntarily by accepting those difficulties, right? But after we start relishing it, can we still call it austerities?
After we start relishing it is not an austerity, it is natural propensity in Krishna consciousness. And that's what Raghunath Das Goswami eventually developed. That's the beauty of Krishna consciousness. It's not some dry austerity. Eventually it becomes so relishable because you're actively engaging in Krishna's service. So to the eyes of others, it's still austerity, but for ourselves, Krishna gives the strength from within, and it is no more an austerity. So it is pleasurable because that is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. The others, when they perform austerity, jnanis and others, that is really austerity for them also. But for a devotee, once he has transcended that bodily identification, it is only pleasure. It is pleasure from within. Krishna gives that pleasure.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you, Mataji. That was so nice.
Yeah, but to transcend that bodily identification, it's possible only for a few. Yeah.
Yes. You're right, Mataji. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mataji. Beautiful class. So nice to see you. Today, Bhakti Sangha is complete. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandot Pranam, all Pushti Shila. Very, very beautiful class, Mataji. And thank you. We were missing your nice stories and your classes, Mataji. Thank you so much. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Shamagori Mataji. Thank you for everything. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I like the story of Ramanujacharya and also the Madan Mohan was playing with the kids and the Chobeji's wife was like cooking khichdi every day for them. All the kids will sit and eat. So it's so nice, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you, Shamagori Mataji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Preethi Mataji, very, very beautiful class, Mataji. Thank you so much for such a beautiful class. It was so nice, and all the verses talking about prasadam and taking care of a deity. Such a beautiful verses which is aptly suited for you, Mataji, to explain. You are explaining very nicely how you take care of your Laddu Gopal and your Shaligram Shila at home. I remember when you were telling the story of that uh, chobe, right? But it was not like that. But you were like always, whatever you are doing, oh, my Laddu Gopal needs to eat sweet now. My Laddu Gopal needs to eat milk. You are like, I have to give food. You run away from the call and you do it. Such a love you have, Mataji. You are talking. We could see that such a beautiful, beautiful class. So many stories you shared. Everything was so nice. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. You are a big inspiration for austerity. So thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Preethi vilasini gopi. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai, koti koti dan pranam. Jai Jai Nityananda, Jai Jai Gauranga, Bhagwan ki jai ho rahe.
Wonderful.
अभी रेडी नहीं हुए भगवान. Thank you, Mataji. All the point is already explained, Mataji. You explained so nicely how to give a part to Shishi Gaurnitai, Sisi Laddu Gopal, Sisi Jagannath, Balram, Subhadra. Usually we Gujarati people give a bath with Panchamruta, add Keshar, but you add camphor also, Mataji. And Sugandha for camphor. So, Mataji, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, Dandat Pranam.
Panchamrita has better standard, Mataji. This is lower standard, what I said.
And add Tulsi Maharani also, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. So happy to see you back. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, Dandat.
Hari Bol. Thank you for the darshan, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Preethi.
Mataji.
Hari Bol.
Go ahead, Mataji.
Go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to your service. You can hear me, Mataji?
Yes, nice to see you.
It is so nice to see you, your smile and the liveliness which you get in the class. And for those who are in US, like it would be like on a cold and frosty morning, your class is like the warmth which they must be getting. And it is like, to be very frank, like whatever you were explaining, in each and every word where you said that, okay, I am not a perfect example of it, or I cannot explain. To be very frank, it was just like you who were coming behind that each and every word. At least what I'm telling it from my heart, that it was you who was coming in my mind, that okay, whatever is doing, okay, she does that. So like there's so many instances, so many things which you mentioned. So it is amazing, like the amount of faith and the amount of love you have. It is a blessing that you have, and we draw inspiration from you. So keep inspiring us always, and keep that wonderful smile of yours always, so that we can get inspired, and whatever little we can do because of you. At least I. So please continue inspiring us, Mataji. The scriptures are wonderful, but the way you put it in, it just gives it so much of meaning, and so much of faith that yes, like there is some hope. Just like how Srila Prabhupada gives us the hope, right? Like there is still hope, whatever you do. And the stories which you narrated, it brings so much of, like the moment you hear from it, you want to go and read that part of Chaitanya Charitamrita. That is the potency of your classes. So thank you again for it. Thank you so much.
Jai.
Not me, Mataji, but it's people like you who keep inspiring and encouraging everyone. Thank you, Sita Priti Mataji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Preethi Vilasini Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you so much for wonderful class, Mataji. I didn't hear the complete class, but I'll go back and I'll hear the entire class. But thank you for giving your association, Mataji. I'm so happy to see you.
Thank you, Varda. Thank you, Vardhana Mataji. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on the call. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Nice to see you.
I'm
I'm
so
eager
glad to
to
see you,
hear.
Mataji. First time I'm seeing you. Preethi
Oh, you never seen me?
Yeah, I've not seen you before. Thank you. I mean, I've not seen your face. Of course, I've heard your voice every day, but I've not.
Oh, yeah. Thank you to come back and happy to see you.
Thank
Very
you.
glad to see you. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for being on the call. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandavat Pranam to everyone. Hare
Hari
Krishna,
Bol. Hari Bol, Prabhu. Dandavats. All good.
Dandavat Pranam. Very nice to see you back with a smiley face on you. And Bhakti Sangha group was so nice that they chant about 15 days every day. I felt so good about that, they're like one family,
Very
which is very nice, And my heartfelt pranama to all the Vaishnavas, all the Matajis,
Prabhu.
Are you still in Chicago or you moved back to California or something?
I moved, Prabhu. I moved to California, Prabhu.
Yeah, they from temple they call me the Friday service you were doing. Now they call me. Now I'm doing it on Friday service, transfer service.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. And thanks so much for being there on that day, Prabhu. It was of immense strength to see you and have your association that day. Thank you so much.
Yes, I stayed over there 2 hours, and I was keep informing everyone here in the Bhakti Sangha group. They call me that please go over there and see. But all the management devotees were there already.
Thank you, Prabhu, for coming all the way. It was very, very kind of you. Thank you so much.
The Radhika Mataji also were praying all the time for your husband, like every day, 11 malas every day.
She also spoke. Thank you so much. So grateful to both of you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for being there for me. Thank you.
And I saw your devotions that with this, still you came up with a smiley face and nothing happens in your life. This is very Krishna conscious bhava in you have. Keep it up.
Thank you for all your prayers, Prabhu.
Just encourage everyone that, you come back with your all bhavas to serving the Lord Krishna. This is most important. We can learn from you.
Prayers of Vaishnavas, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru and Gauranga. Very happy to see you, Mataji, back.
Thank you
So much.
Mataji, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming back for us.
Thanks to both of you.
We are all waiting for you.
Thank you, Mataji, for giving so much strength. Thank you.
Thank you for having such a nice association of all the wonderful devotees in this Bhakti Sangha group. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Radhika Mataji.
And about taking the water, jala of the Radha Kund, you can take like 3 drops and drink it. 3 drops is enough. You don't have to drink a lot of them. So the water doesn't looks like very good, but you can take 3 drops and put it on your forehead with the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Radha Rani ki Jai. You will purify it as you are drinking, water.
Yes, Prabhu.
Worshipping water, yes, Hari Bol.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for adding.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dantavat Pranams. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Sorry Mataji if there is noise in the background. But totally appreciate your presence in the class, and I loved each and every pastime that you narrated. And to add on, I also was thinking about Shabari and her love for Lord Ram. And I was also thinking about Madhumangal and Krishna before the Brahma Vimohan Lila, how his mood was. He was also like Sudama, trying to hide what he has got for him, thinking, see, he came from a poor family, and his mother told him, just have it, but don't give it to Krishna unless he asks for it. So I was just reminded of that story as well, how he happened to eat it from Madhumangal's mouth. This is what Krishna is. He just, there is no rules or regulations, but when he sees the love, he just goes to the extent that we would never imagine he could do that, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I was reminded of all those stories too, as you were narrating the pastimes. And I loved each and everything that you mentioned, Mataji. Ramanujacharya's the sand pastime, how he actually ate sand to prove to the devotees that this is the remnant. I mean, that shows the faith in him, as you said, rightly said. When he's able to eat the mud also was prasadam to him, and that's how he saw it. Because of the dedication, Krishna accepted it, and he also, there is no differentiation, I mean, of gold and lump of matter. Everything looks the same to a devotee. Likewise, I was just reminded that, I mean, when you are in that Gaura mood, according to Raghunath Goswami, when he was traveling, those past 3 days, he didn't have any food, right? I mean, and then it was explained by Srila Prabhupada that his consciousness was Gaura consciousness. And because of the Gaura consciousness, he was able to, I mean, there was no question of hunger for him. I mean, where would hunger come into play when his body and mind and soul is all engaged in Gaura?
Correct.
Gaura Hari, right? I mean, that all those things that you mentioned, Mataji, was definitely reflected upon and taken care of. Thank you so much, Mataji, for your wonderful presence, and I totally appreciate, Mataji. Dandavat pranams to you. All glories to you.
Wonderful additions, Radhika Mataji. Always, it's nice to hear all your additions. Very, very beautiful. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Preethi, Vilasini, Mataji. This is Gaurangi.
Haribo.
Yeah, I was so excited to see that you were going to be the speaker today at 11. I said, wow. Even though I did have a little mental preparation because, I think it was during Gita Jayanti, you had the advent of the kids, resignation. So that kind of prepared me for your comeback. It's nice, so nice to see you back in action.
Thank you, Mataji.
Also, in the middle of this Q&A session here, I felt like I got a little bit of a realization. I mean, realization for me, but obvious probably to everyone else. That when Ranganath Das was eating that rancid rice. To us it sounds like such a tremendous austerity, but because it's actually an expression of his profound love for Mahaprabhu, it was ecstasy for him to eat that rancid rice, because love is happiness, and so when you are, whether you are expressing it or receiving it, you're going to be in bliss, and so because the eating of that rice was an expression of love, it was actually he was in ecstasy. It was not what it was not what my experience would be, And somehow that just came to me in the middle of the question answer. I think something you said that just made that click for me. But I just wanted to express what is probably just obvious, or has already been well understood by others.
So thank you, Mataji. Thank you for putting it in words and reiterating that point.
Yeah, thank you so much for this class and for being back. Hare Krishna.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Gaurangi Mataji.
I was sorry. I was just thinking that because Raghunath Das Goswami, he's a Nitya Siddha, right? So because he has that Siddha Deha that's able to withstand all that. Do you
Yes,
think?
yes,
I'm
yes.
just speculating though.
No, no,
Just
it's not speculation. In one of the verses, it is also said that he was serving in a spiritual body. I mean, he would often serve in a Siddha Deha, and that's how he was able to sustain everything. That is correct, Mataji. You're right. Yes.
And also then Ramanujacharya's pastime of eating that dirt, that I mean, is it like in that mood that, like many people as austerity, they eat, like they say, right, Mansoor, like in the coin?
No, no, not in that mode. It was more like he really saw it as prasadam, that Ranganath had accepted it, whatever the kids were doing. So not in the mood of austerity or Mansoor, not like that.
Oh, okay, thank you, Preethi.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Preethi Vilasini Mataji, Dandvat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you for such a beautiful class, Mataji. Loved how you explained everything, starting from the right way of worshipping, how to bathe the deities, how to offer to the deities, and all of the beautiful pastimes of Ramanujacharya, of Madan Mohan, and Sanatan Goswami. That was really funny the way you explained how she was brushing her teeth and then putting it in the khichdi, the same, using the same, what do you call it, neem stick for it. So very beautiful class, and so happy to have you back, Mataji. Looking forward to many more classes from you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Don't have any questions, Mataji. I was also wondering about how he was serving in a Siddhadeha, and you just were talking about it right now. So thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol, Indu. Thank you so much, Indu Mataji. Hare Krishna. So if there are no other questions or comments, shall we end the class?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so once again, Mataji, for your decision. We can end the class, paying our obeisances to all the devotees and hundreds with Vilasi Mataji.
Kalpatarvesya Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pamanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Chaitanya Caritamtra ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you,
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you for such a beautiful class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
So good
Mataji.
to see you.
Hare Krishna.
So happy you're back.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Tiffany Mataji, your chanting of Bhagavad Gita was so awesome. I just have to say it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.